producers. It's your boy Matt coming at you live. It is Thursday, another beautiful day because we're all alive and producing. So let's get started. As first up on the order of business, what's up, Rahat? Thanks for joining. Be sure to join the Music Producer School community. The link is in the Facebook comments. I'm going to be listening to your tracks there on Saturday after our regularly scheduled class. I'm enjoying listening to everybody else's music and doing reviews on it. So if you want your music to be reviewed and get a little feedback from me, be sure to post your music there on the wall in the community page. And if you haven't joined yet, click that link and join. I will approve you ASAP. So today we're going to be doing our discussion part 2 of DJing and why DJing is important if you want to be a producer. Now, as I explained in the first lesson, you don't have to be an active DJ, going out to clubs or wherever parties and actually DJing to get the benefits of DJing. So what I covered in the first lesson, and if you missed it, go check it out on the Facebook page or on our YouTube page. I was explaining some of the tools that I've used as a DJ to help me when I'm producing music. So one of the other aspects of that is when you do kind of start DJing, you'll start to build up, and again, even if it's just for fun, you're going to start to build up this library in your brain of tempos. And again, tempo is super, super, super important when you're producing. And I call it having a good command of tempo. So I can almost in my head think of different tempos and just almost like tap them out pretty accurately within a few BPM of each other. And the way that I do that is I have this library of songs in my head that, using the tools that I showed y'all a couple days ago, which were, if you missed that one, you can use Rekordbox, which is free. You can use Virtual DJ, which I believe is free, and they will analyze your songs for you and show you the BPMs. Now, there's one other one I wanted to show you guys today before we get all the way into it, and that is this other software called Mixed in Key. I don't believe I showed y'all this one the other day. So this is Mixed in Key, and essentially it's another software where we'll analyze your songs, and we went over the wheel of fifths over here I showed you a couple days ago and how that works. And Mixed in Key is going to do the same thing, where it will analyze your songs. It'll give you the BPM and the key of your songs in your music library. I do believe that this one is not free. Yeah, it looks like it's about $49. So another option, but like I said, I believe Virtual DJ and Rekordbox are free versions of the softwares that you can use to do the same thing. So once you start analyzing your music, start trying to commit to memory some of the tempo ranges that some of your favorite songs are in. So, I know like with certain songs, the tempos, the speed of the songs are. So I can always kind of rely on that when I'm producing and when I get stuck. So if I'm working at, say, around like 100 BPM and I get stuck on like a drum pattern or even just the groove, which if a lot of you don't understand really what groove is, I'm going to cover that maybe even next week. Groove is super important because you can have a song at a tempo and you can have another song at the same exact tempo, but they'll sound completely different and they'll feel completely different. And that's where groove comes in. Groove is also super important. I might cover that next week. So I have all these different grooves in my head, and it's not like you're just memorizing like little rhythmic beat patterns. I actually have these songs in my head, and again, when you can start to pick out the important elements of the song, like what is giving the song that groove, you can use those as almost, again, like a reference library. So if I'm working at 100 BPM and I'm getting kind of stuck or things are getting a little boring, I can just go to my little reference library in my head and say, well, what's that other song at 100 BPM that I really like, that I know always works on the dance floor? What kind of groove do they use? And maybe I can use that to kind of keep my production going forward. So the other thing I wanted to talk about today, and where the lesson was going to kind of focus today, was I wanted to focus it on a little bit of remixing. So with remixing, again, a lot of people may not fully be aware of how some of this stuff works. So again, I'm starting at the beginning so that everybody can be on the same page. So if this is a little bit, below what you already know, just hang in there because I'm going to get more complicated as the weeks go by. I just want to make sure everybody's starting on the same page. So remixing is essentially taking a vocal, which would be in the a cappella form, meaning it's only the vocal track or tracks. You're going to remix the song and completely redo the music portion of the song with an existing vocal, right? So I had already showed you guys some stuff on remixing before. I showed you some sites that you can go to get some acapellas. You can, of course, just Google stuff for acapellas, YouTube. I did show y'all a couple of specific acapella sites that you can go to. So, why is remixing important when it comes to DJing? And how does this fit in with the overall scheme of producing? So basically, I wanted to show y'all how by remixing, a lot of us, when we're starting out producing, we don't have access to maybe a good vocalist. You might just be getting started. But the problem I see with a lot of newer producers is they're only making beats. And you really have to learn, and you want to start from the beginning making a complete production with vocals, because you need to learn how to treat vocals, not just meaning how you mix vocals like EQ and compression, but how do you fit a vocal into a production. So I'm going to show you guys this with my song that I used the acapella before, called I Can See the Sunrise. Now, I believe I actually got flagged on YouTube for using my own damn song when I used this last time, but that's okay. I'm not monetizing my videos anyway, so I don't think it's a big deal. So what I wanted to point out, and I wanted to kind of go over how to do this for some of the newer guys and girls, because this is super helpful when you're learning how to produce, to be able to interact with a vocal. So I know that this vocal, first of all, is cut on the downbeat of 1. So that way, what that means is wherever I throw it on my grid, on the grid here with my measures that are marked out here, like 33, 34, 35, 36, and so on, I know that this vocal was cut right on the downbeat right here of the 1. So basically I can put it on any one of these grid lines and it's going to match up. Now, I also know that this acapella was created at 125 beats per minute. Most acapellas that you get, what's up, Ioane? Thanks for saying hello. So from Fiji, thanks, appreciate that. So I know that this acapella was at 125 BPM. And what I like to do when I get my acapellas is, of course, I want to find out the BPM. I also have the key that it's in, which I have is B flat minor. So if we go and pull up our little wheel of fifths, you'll see that B flat minor is 3A, right? So I know my tempo and I know my key. So what that means is I can instantly set my tempo of my production to 125 to match the acapella. And once this acapella has been in Ableton, you can warp it. It's a little bit different in all the different DAWs. But once I warp this and I know that the BPMs match, I can now speed up my song or I can slow down my song. And my BPM is going to match, right? So what you want to do is get these to match your tempo of the song you're working on and the tempo of your acapella. So I'm just going to leave this at 125 for now, but I wanted to show you quickly how you can kind of approach some of this stuff to get some benefit out of it, because again, we don't all have vocalists when we're starting producing, and remixing is actually a great way to kind of get your name out there. So Rahat, I think I'd been talking to about, how to kind of get your name out there and stuff like that. So another good way is to remix songs. So if you wanted to remix this song, the first thing I would do is I would say, okay, let me find where the vocal starts. All right, so we're just gonna work with this one part of the vocal right here in the beginning. Right? Okay, so we're in B flat minor. So I'm gonna go over to my songwriter chords, which I believe I showed y'all the other day, maybe last week that was, where these are basically, these are on my website, and really quickly I'll show y'all how to get to them. If you go to musicproducer.school and hit enter, that's going to bring you to my online store, and you can go to MIDI tools right here, MIDI tools or MIDI tools right here, and you'll find the MIDI songwriter chords right here, and I'll maybe put the link in for these in a minute. Let me go ahead and I'll do that right now in case anybody's interested. So essentially what these allow you to do is, as long as you know the key that you're working in, these are going to have the keys listed for you. So you see over here, my songwriter chords, I have it major and minor. So you have all of the keys listed here. And you'll see also that wheel, the Camelot wheel that I showed y'all for the DJing stuff, I have those numbers in here. So when you analyze your song in Virtual DJ, in Rekordbox, in Mixed In Key, it's going to give you the key, but it's also going to give you that number code. So on this one, I know I'm in 3A, which is B flat minor. So if I go to 3A over in the minor folder, I have it here as A sharp, but remember, A sharp and B flat are the same thing. So that's the key that I'm in, A sharp minor or B flat minor. And like I said, I have the key and the number here listed. So you just look up the number. Super, super simple. So if you go here, you can grab the MIDI songwriter chords. And once you grab these, you can go to work. So let me throw these in the comments real quick in case anybody wants to get to those quickly. All right, that's in the Facebook comments now. So basically we have our key, so now we can just go to work. So in the original track, I believe I had probably started off in B flat minor. So let me first get a little sound going here. Let me use my trusty Sylenth. I'll tell you what, actually, let me try. I think I just updated this other synth called Anna, which I know it's in here somewhere. Anna, there we go. This is another cool one that I like to use sometimes. All right, cool. So let me go to, let's do some type of pads maybe. Or maybe see if they have some keys perhaps. Plucks. All right, that's cool. So there's my, remember I showed y'all in one of the other lessons how to kind of learn what basically any synth does. If you missed that one, go back and check it out. So I know that my cutoffs here are going to be controlling. So this cutoff 1, 2 is controlling filter 1 and 2. Right? So let's start there. Something like that. So I'm now going to go back into my songwriter chords now that we have a sound. And let's start with, let's see just what we can do with this thing. So quickly what I'm going to do also, because I want to start this a little lower, is I'm going to throw my pitch on here, and I'm going to bring this down at least an octave. Let's try 2 octaves. Yeah, let's try that. So let's just bring this out here and make it a little longer. All right. Let's try my songwriter chords here. Let's try, let's see what this one sounds like.
I never thought it would be like this. You lift me up, throw me.
Just gonna copy that over.
You lift me up, throw me down, got me dancing with your lips and you.
Copy that one more time.
You burn me up inside.
And then right here, I want to change it up. So let's try this G major here. Let's try this one here. Alright, that's kind of cool. So let's, for this one, let's bring this one up and get it kind of going up since we're just staying in the same place on those other ones. Let's see what this sounds like. Okay, so what I would do here is I'm going to consolidate these clips since I copied. Okay, so now we can go in down here and kind of get to work a little bit. Let's get ourselves a little room here. Get me out of the way. So what I would start doing now that I have a little bit of a progression is I would start giving me some rhythm here. Now the last time I had just thrown in the arpeggiator. This time I'm going to show you how to do this approach when I'm actually remixing. So I would start here and just start kind of copying over some patterns, you know. Alright, a little too quick there. Let's try something like this. See what this sounds like. Alright, let's move this over. Okay, so I'm liking that. So I'm just gonna repeat that for my second measure now. So I'm liking that pattern. So now when I come over here, I'm just gonna do that same pattern. Let's go back and double check here. So I'm gonna do this and this, and that's the pattern I think we're gonna roll with. And then we're gonna repeat that. Alright, and then we're gonna get this going here. So you can see with the songwriter chords how quickly you can kind of just get something rolling, right? Which is cool because it just keeps you moving quickly, and you don't really have to think too much, but you're not using pre-made stuff. It's just, you know, it's a much quicker way to just kind of get your productions rolling. So then over here, we're gonna do the same thing. Now, of course, we can't just let this thing roll like this the whole time, but we're going to take care of that. Okay? So we have a basic pattern here, right? So what I'm going to try to not do any like super Ableton specific stuff until the end here, because I know a lot of y'all are not necessarily using Ableton, but I will show you a couple quick cool little Ableton tricks as well with this. So once you get this pattern going, there's a lot of different things we can do with it, but I just wanted to show you how if you're working with a vocal, you can really just start getting a feel for how you can work around a vocal, right? So So for example, you might be saying, okay, well, this is a little bland. You know, we're just doing these spaced out stabs right here. Well, if I have a vocal to work with, here's your first little idea for the day. So like right here, for example, I could copy this Be Like This, put it down on a track by itself, throw in on a quick EQ, and we're just going to give it kind of a mid-rangey, almost what I call like the radio vocal effect. And then I'm going to throw a delay on it. And then we're going to bring the volume down a little bit. So this is the type of things that you can be thinking about doing with vocals. So like right there, that and you. Bring that out a little bit. So I'm not going to go through the whole process here today, but what I wanted to make you aware of is if you're not working with a vocal, what tends to happen is on these little spaces right here with your instrumental that you're working on, you're going to be tempted to always just grab another instrument, you know, and throw another, you know, like and that's not always bad, but you have to be aware that if you're working on a production, you have to include the vocal and take that into account. So before you start adding a whole bunch of other instruments, you want to start thinking of the vocal first and foremost, because the vocal is always going to be the most important part. So when I first started out, I was very timid to, you know, really do anything with the vocal. Like I would just want to stick to, okay, this is my lead vocal track. I can only throw a delay or do something on this, and I've got to automate, you know, the delays and all this stuff. But once I kind of became okay and familiar with this process of duplicating tracks and then just kind of copying the vocal, and now I have these extra tracks to play with where I'm filtering them heavily so that way it doesn't interfere with the vocals. So like right here even, I could just scoot this out like this by a bar, and you can start getting stuff where maybe you want to pan them left and right, and they start kind of going, you get a little left to right motion, so something like this. So just little tricks like that like I said, until I started becoming comfortable with splitting the vocal off like that, you can do a ton of really cool and fun tricks like this without having to worry about screwing up your lead vocal. But the overall point is when you're producing, you want to be keeping this vocal in mind, because the vocal is always what people are going to attach to the most. So for example here also, instead of doing this extra track, we could just do our single split off vocal like this, but we'll throw a super, super long reverb on it, right? So we'll put a lot of wet on there and make it like a few seconds long, and it's just going to hang out there. So I'll show y'all one more quick trick with that. I'm going to duplicate. Well, actually, let's not get too confusing today. I'm getting a little excited doing all this for you. So let's duplicate this track, and on the duplicated track, I'm going to turn my reverb all the way up, and I'm going to make it even longer, like 16 seconds, right? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Ableton, and I'm going to reverse this vocal. So I just reversed my vocal. So let's listen to that. So I'm going to freeze this track with that super long reverb on there. And then I'm going to flatten it, so I just get the audio. So now I have a cool little effect of sweeping in like that. I can get rid of my duplicate track. And I can kind of crossfade these. And this is going to come up and cut off right on this new vocal right here. And then I'm going to bring up I'm going to bring up my volume on this a little bit as well so we can hear the effect a little better. So that's another cool, fun little trick you can do for stuff like that. But the point is, I just wanted to show you how, if especially you're starting out as a producer, you have access to all these acapellas online that are going to get you thinking about the vocal before you get too deep. Because another big issue I had when I first started producing, and I didn't realize this until I started DJing, which got me really into remixing, which was you tend to, if you're just making a beat, you tend to put way too much stuff instrumentally into your song, and then you're trying at the end to like cram your vocal in there. You really want to start thinking about a vocal first. So another trick where I'm going to kind of end off on this lesson today was, even if you're not doing a remix per se, but let's say you're just making a track that, let's say you want to sell, you know, you're a producer and you're just trying to sell tracks or sell beats. I wanted to show you this technique where you can actually just go get an acapella. So that's kind of where I'll wrap it up today, which is this. Make your beat or your instrumental, and if you're not starting off with a vocal like this, figure out what key you're in early on. And what you can do is, even if you're not doing a remix per se, you can go online, find an acapella that's in the key or close to the key and close to the BPM that you're working in, and then dump that into your session, so that way you can at least hear what a vocal would sound like on your track. I hope that's making sense. You know, make your beat or your instrumental and then go grab an acapella, throw it on your track, and just get a sense of what it sounds like with a vocal on it before you go and try and sell your track or whatever. Because you may find out that, oh, I got this melody line that just is all over the place, and it's gonna be messing up the vocal when a vocal does get on there. So I wanted to kind of just go over that, because I think those are some cool little ways to, like I said, really start hearing your production, even if you don't have a vocalist that you can just hire, or a friend that you can get to sing on your tracks. So let me show you one more quick little Ableton specific trick here for all my Ableton peeps, and I'll wrap it up. So what we could do here is, I have these separate clips that I just did these chords very quickly with my songwriter chords presets, right? So what I can do is highlight all of this, and I'm gonna consolidate with Command J. You can also go up to Edit and hit Consolidate, and that'll put it all in one big clip here, right? So you see we have this big clip now. Now, if I have my fold engaged, what that is doing is it's only showing me the keys that are actually being used, meaning the notes that are actually being used as MIDI. So what I could do is I could, let's say, highlight like all my low F sharps here, and I can bring them up, let's say, an octave. I just did that with Shift Up arrow. And let's see what that does. Sometimes this will do some interesting little changes to our chord progression.
I never thought it would be like this. You lift me up from the down, got me dancing with your lips and you.
So that's kind of cool, but let me do this first. Let's take all of our bass notes, which is this, 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 this. I'm just shift and highlighting here. All of our bass notes. I'm going to take fold off, and I'm going to copy these down, just one note. I'm going to do Shift down arrow to bring them down an octave, and then I'm going to bring them up that one note that we just copied it with. So in other words, I copied it down just a half step, so that way I could get those notes. I brought them down an octave, but then I got to go back up that half step to get them back in key. So now we have some nice low bass notes here. That's another little trick you can do.
I never thought it would be like this.
So I don't know if you'll be able to hear that on your phone if you're watching, but definitely on the studio speakers and headphones you can hear that. So now I'm going to take these low F sharps, and I'm going to bring those, let's go back to our fold. So these low F sharps, I'm going to bring those up Or I tell you what, I'm noticing that we've got these A sharps here. Well, we can do F sharp. Let's do that. And then these A sharps even. Let's bring those up an octave.
I never thought it would be like this.
So that's pretty cool. So what we could try here also is doing a slightly different thing on the bass. So instead of the same pattern, and this is again how you kind of generate interest in your songs, instead of just doing the same pattern, I could do this with a separate bass, but I could also just do something like this where I'm going to do just straight eighth notes on my bass. So let's see what something like this sounds like.
I never thought it would be like
And then the same thing here.
I never thought it would be like this.
Okay, so I'm not really digging that. So what I would do is, like I just said, I would keep this pattern the same because I'm liking that. But then what I could do is duplicate this track up here. So now I'm operating on the duplicate. I'm going to get rid of all of these notes that are not the bass notes. So all this stuff here, because I'm trying to preserve my bass notes here. I want bass notes there, here. All of this stuff can be taken out. So now I have my bass notes, right? So now I can do what I was just attempting to do, which is just eighth notes here. And then same thing here, just eighth notes. So I know this is going to repeat up until we get this change over here. So I'm going to copy and paste this. And now I'll copy paste this until we get to the change over here. And then I need to adjust these notes over here to do my eighth notes. And then here I've got my eighth notes. Okay, so I just copied and pasted that. So now what we want to do is go into our plugin. Let me get me out of the way here. Go into our plugin, and now we're just going to change to a bass. Let's see what kind of bass techno stuff we got here. Let's see what this sounds like. All right, so it's too low because I have this pitch over here, right? So let me get my pitch back up. Let's try a couple different presets here. Something like that, maybe. And then let's listen to these together.
I never thought it would be like this. You lift me up, throw me down, got me dancing with your lips and you burn me up inside.
All right, cool. And I do like this little vocal reverse thing I did earlier. That's coming out to be cool. So now the final thing here would be to, let's maybe try and get some of this this filter cutoff working that I showed in Anasynth, right? So I have my automation here for it, and I'm going to start rising it out there. And then let's see, does Anasynth, I think, has some reverb stuff here? Yeah. So my reverb wet level, I just click that, and because I have configure hit here in Ableton, as I click these, it's adding the automation points. So now let's also do our decay. So I can click on reverb wet, and I can start it there, and I'm going to kind of give it like a washout type thing, where it's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. And then that was my my decay, and now my wet. So let's see what this sounds like.
I never thought it would be like this.
right, cool. So I think you can kind of hear where something like that will be going. And I got to be honest with you, after doing just that little bit, I wanna hit that next part and start putting some drums in and whatnot. So that's what you want to do when you're producing. You want to be able to move quickly like this, so that way you can keep yourself inspired and keep having fun. And again, that's why I would definitely recommend y'all go check out those songwriter chords, because especially if you're not up on your music theory, as long as you know the key of the song, which you 100% can know every single time, you can just go drag and drop these songwriter chords. And I mean, you can literally just come up with different versions and different remixes just instantly. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. We're going to do one more class on DJing and how these kind of DJing type concepts can help you with your productions on Saturday. Be sure to join the Music Producer School community. The link is in the Facebook comments. It's free, but I have to approve you to get in there. And be sure to go post some of your music on the wall in the community, because that's where I'll be going to listen to it this Saturday. And I'm definitely enjoying listening to you guys' music. So I hope that was helpful for today. We'll do one more on DJing concepts on Saturday, and I'll be listening to your stuff over in the Music Producer School community. All right, y'all go make some music. I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining.